I have suffered a couple of panic attacks and some depression in the last year or two. Really, it finally all kind of caught up with me. But my wife has experienced decades of this. While we were active, before we ever met, our whole marriage, and we've been a little protective of that part today. But my sweet wife has experienced physical damage from all of this, well beyond what she's talking about now. And that's all I'm going to say, unless she wants to say more, but it's significant. And it's very damaging what you can do to hold all these things and try to be somebody you're not, and try to, the cognitive dissonance you go through on the church history stuff, like that was so big for me, is so painful and so damaging to try and hold on to contradictory things, especially when there's so much fear involved. We were scared to death that we were losing everything. And so I get a little ragey when we get into this area, because I see how much harm it's caused to the person I love the most, and how it's affected me, our children, what we've lost in time and hurt and sickness and all these things. It can be a very, very damaging thing to be involved in something that is making you lie, always telling you that you're not enough, that you're wrong, you can't get any better. I mean, these are some of the messages that are implied, that aren't said, but that we all have felt. And then you get to the crisis where it's not true. And those things physically have affected both of us deeply. One other thing on Joanna and her text thing, I'm in touch with her mom, and we text occasionally. And that was kind of part of the arrangement. So she looked for her sister. I was able to communicate with her mom so that her family wasn't in the dark when she decided she had to pull away for a bit. And her family wasn't sending us the guilt messages. She wasn't getting that kind of stuff from her family. But it was just the fact that anytime she got anything, she would go into this spin cycle of depression, even though maybe all they said in a text was, "Hey, I love you all." I mean, could be the most simple thing, but it was just these blasts at her, and then she would spin off, and then I would spin off. And so we got some help with the therapist, helped us to talk about it and help us get the guts to do it. And then one of her sisters, who is a very active member of the church, who I love and who was so helpful, she talked to her mom and said, "Joanna needs help. She's got this thing that's an illness, and she's getting treatment with medication, with a therapist, and what her doctor tells her is she needs some space for a while." And then we explained to them that it's not about them telling us about church stuff, because they weren't doing that. It was just about this pressure. And they've been very good about it. But it helped them to understand that we weren't just cutting them out of our lives. So that's an important part of it too, because her family's not wondering what's going on right now. They may not understand it, but at least they understand where Joanna's coming from. And that's helped them to have a little space, so that when she calls on Mother's Day, it's not like, "Hey, everything's back to normal." She's going to do this at her pace and in a healthy way. So that, I think, is a little more to that story too. So that would be something to keep in mind. Who are your allies in the family that you can help and bring in to help mend those fences?
And using medical professionals to help you express to your family, because you can say, I love you, and I know you love me. This isn't about that. I know you're sad about our decision with the church. But my mental health or emotional health is not doing well, or physical health, and I need to step away. And time helps. I know you've heard that a billion times. It's helped us tremendously. I mean, we're not quite 3 years, and it's night and day from how it was 3 years ago.
She said therapy, and I amen that, but we didn't start that until about
February of this year.
Yeah.
So,
and in my email to this therapist, who was recommended by a friend of ours, I said, I can't do it by pulling up my bootstraps anymore because I was losing my mind. So I had been out of the church. We had been out of the church
Hobbling along
for a couple of years.
You were going to talk about the workshop, and not, again, that I care about it,
yeah.
but I know it's meant something to some people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me combine these two things. We were out of the church, not doing therapy, not fixing anything because we just were out. Like that was the solution. And I remember the first Sunday we didn't go to church. I had no idea what to do with myself. I sat in the couch watching TV, looking at the clock and knowing where everybody was at church. And feeling terrible, even though I didn't want to be there. It's a terrible transition. It can be anyway. I wish I had gone to therapy way, way earlier. And not just anybody. We specifically found somebody who has expertise in religious trauma. My biggest fear about therapy was it's going to take me 10 years to explain to somebody what it's like to be a Mormon. And I didn't have to do that. Our therapist, her name is Debbie Glander, and she's in Davis, California. I asked her; she's fine. And she has really, really helped us. And we're new to this, but it's amazing. In the last 4 months or whatever, the things we've learned. What Joanna said about hurting you and hurting others. This is brave new territory for us.
Well,
this is good stuff that's relatively new.
Not just therapy, but so your Mormon Stories, that's why so many people, it's just glom onto it because it's a shared experience. And so going to your retreat, we did January 2017, it was in Anaheim, and we literally decided 2 days before, we jumped in the car, we went down, and we're there, and just meeting other people.
That's huge.
We met someone that knew someone in my family, and they weren't open about their leaving the church yet. And anyway, it's such a small world in the Mormon community. You can go 1,000 miles away and there's someone that knows somebody. Anyway, but it was huge for us to be able to express our grief, to see other people's grief, and stories are different, but they're all similar. And so that was so helpful. And then when you came in last November and we hosted one here in Davis, we had 80 people come, and some that had flown from Georgia, Yeah. And some people had been out for 15 years and some people had been out for 2 weeks. And some people who hadn't left church yet, they were still trying to figure out what to do or how to communicate. It's such a...
So we're in just outside of Sacramento, and 80 people came to a Mormon Stories workshop. This isn't Provo, right?
Yeah.
And there's a huge need. And those workshops and meeting other people, and you did some coaching with some friends of ours who we didn't know.
We met them a year ago.
You introduced us to them for this reason. You said, these guys need some friends. And we met them, and there are some of our closest friends.
Hit it off, and and last Saturday we were went about 30 miles away, and there was a group that got together, new people that we had met, that some we had met before but got to know a little better. So it's making groups here with shared experiences, and some people need that more than others. Scott needs that more than I do, I think. Mm-hmm. We also have had so much family around here that we haven't had the same need for support that some others might, but
there's a Sacramento Mormon Spectrum Facebook group. That's where a lot of the activity in this area happens. Yeah. There's a group in Elk Grove, there's a group in Roseville, there's a group in this area. And I mean, totally informal, just groups of people that have become friends. And one woman in Sacramento hosted she called it enrichment night for the ladies to get together. There's been coffee meetups and a couple of barbecues and some fishing trips, and I mean, just people who you go to these group things, and then you find the couple of people that you really connect with, and then you get to be really good friends, and then the shared stories are so healing. I can't even talk about it because I'll just bawl. But that song that Tyler Glenn wrote about you, there were so many times where I listened to a podcast, and it was the only thing keeping me sane. It's really the reason I wanted to do this. A couple of years ago, I wanted to do this so I could yell at the church. today I'm glad to do it because there's probably a guy out there like me who will hear this and it'll help him. And then maybe he can do it, a couple of years after that. Those podcasts, those things saved me. I went through Year of Polygamy. I went through all of your stuff, Bill Reel's stuff. I mean, there wasn't a podcast out there that I couldn't eat up. Gina Colvin she is amazing.
I think he's in love with her.
I know, I'm in love with Lindsay Hansen Park.
Oh,
actually.
right, yeah. Is she a ginger?
No, she's not.
Good.
No, she's not a redhead, so we're safe.
She has been.
Has she?
She's colored head redhead.
Darn
Oh,
it. He
yeah.
likes redheads. Darn it.
But she is somebody who impresses the heck out of me. Her Year of Polygamy podcast was, it was a church history podcast is what it was. I mean, it was one part of church history, but I was in the middle of all that stuff, and it was huge for me. Yeah. And then John Larson's stuff. But once you land on Mormon expression, you're done. And but that stuff to me was healing also. Yeah. Because you get to a point where you have to say, oh, for crying out loud, can we talk about this Searstone crap? And you have to just really just let it out. And that was Mormon expression, where you were able to say the F word and get ticked off, but really hard hit the data and kind of unwind it all.
Yeah.
I wouldn't start there, but that's a great place to end up. And then the fact that he and Lindsay are doing something together now is awesome. So I think everybody should be giving money to Sunstone and Mormon Stories. Sorry.
And Maddie's Film.
And Maddie's Film first, Maddie's Film, then Sunstone. I don't know. But I support your organization and the Sunstone one because the value that I've gotten out of those podcasts is immeasurable. It's sanity stuff.
And we don't play tithing anymore, so.
But we have all these kids in college, so we're still in the red.
That's true.
Those have been important. Exploring. So alcohol. The first time we drank, we literally were in the closet in our bedroom. We were closet drinkers because we didn't want these guys to know. It's not, like I said, it's not all a straight line. So, this is at the very end, and we would take a sip of wine, and then the roof didn't fall in, and then we'd have another sip, and then we'd try something and think it was disgusting, and then we found a few things that we like. And
all right, Joanna, it's your turn. This is the story that I've wanted you to tell for a long time.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Don't we need a break? What time is it?
Let's tell the story.
Let's tell the story and go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is important, everyone.
If the kids want to leave the room,
you want to hear this. Wait, let me double click on me. You want to hear this. This is important. You guys can leave the room if you want.
If you're uncomfortable, I'm okay doing it. Dad's not.
I hate this part of the story, but I love her. So
we're about to talk. We're about to talk about sex.
We're going to talk about sex
and alcohol. Here we go.
Baby.
Do you guys want some money? You can go get a pizza or something.
No, I'll take money.
Anyway, so we started drinking a little bit. Maddie's put on headphones. Oh, I thought she was blocking it out. We started drinking. Was that
2016?
2016.
Yeah.
So for Scott's birthday in August of 2016, I took him to Giants game, San Francisco. That's one of our favorites. San Francisco's the best city. Anyway, and I had a couple glasses of champagne, and
then we got down to business.
We got down to business.
Business time.
We're going to bring it down low.
We got down to married stuff. And I had an orgasm. And I realized that I hadn't ever before. And
you were how old?
46.
Mm-hmm. This is like paint coming off the walls, neighbors knocking on the door kind of orgasm. Meg Ryan in the deli.
Stop.
Yeah.
Now there goes our 23-year-old. She's got it's a little awkward.
No, but the point is, it was.
Wait, let her tell it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry.
It was like just that my body could do this. I was so blown away, and then I was just weeping, and then Scott was crying, and I'm like, I didn't know my body could do this, and I'm 46. Like all these years, I thought I'd had orgasm. Like sex was great. Like a couple times a week, which was just great. And he was always willing to do anything and everything. And we did all kinds of stuff, but it wasn't like that. And so all of a sudden, like all these, I remember thinking on movies, I'm like, oh, people are always just trying to make sex look like it's more than it should be. And then it happened, and I was like, I've been missing out on this. And then Scott, of course, his first reaction is like defensive, like...
No, my first reaction was to cry. We bawled for a while.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go kill some people.
Why were you crying?
He went little ape shit. I think just the loss of time and knowing that, like I said, I was blown away that my body could do that, and I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I knew my body kind of, but I didn't. Like I said, I grew up in a very Orthodox home. I never dressed in front of my sisters. Like, we're very private. We didn't talk about anything. So Scott's family, like with boys and his parents, were very open and talk about everything. My family was completely opposite. You don't talk about anything. Nothing. And so I was crying just because it was so eye-opening and glorious, beautiful, and like the stars and the moon. It was just like, I felt like a goddess or something, like I could create worlds. It was just crazy. And like I said, again, then at the same time thinking, I'm 46. Like, how did I miss this and then he's feeling bad. Oh, great. I guess I haven't been a good husband or a good partner for all these years. I've just sucked. And I'm like, but it was never about Scott. So until I was able to have some alcohol and relax, it was all about me letting go and relaxing, really relaxing, and needing help to relax. And then realizing, oh, this is who I am. Like, it was really crazy.
And so alcohol was helpful.
Oh, it wouldn't, yeah. That's, yeah, absolutely.
And for purely mental health purposes, I'll ask, have you been able to replicate that?
Yes.
Again?
Yes.
We felt like we had a responsibility to repeat the experiment.
And my first thought was, how long have we been married? You owe me so much. Anyway.
So in effect, you're bearing your testimony about alcohol, basically.
Yes. And well, just learning.
And by the way, this isn't an endorsement of alcohol. I don't drink. People should do what's healthy and happy for them.
That's true.
Both of my grandfathers were alcoholics.
Right.
I mean, my parents were so scared that I would become an alcoholic when I left the church, but they had good reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not telling everybody to go out and start drinking.
No.
Right.
And not everyone, a lot of people have had orgasms without alcohol. But for me...
Just not you.
But for me and my wiring and my uptightness, whatever it is, that helped me relax enough to finally get to know my body. So for me, it's been another journey of just figuring out not just who I am as an identity, not just a daughter of God, and my role as a mother, and blah, 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 blah. Like who I am now, like what do I believe, and what do I want to do with the rest of my life, and who am I? But what's this body?
So we were like going through sex ed at the same time. Sex education. Like we were both learning, about the body at the same time.
Same time as your mother, yes.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, she's just saying that she's like, what is this? Like my body, I didn't know I could do that. Like I was 16, Taking sex ed and learning about that stuff.
Okay.
I just think it's just crazy.
Oh, I see.
My son follows his father and talks when he should shut up.
No, that was good.
I'm teasing.
No, that was actually a really good insight.
I'm teasing. Sorry, no.
Jake,
I should
he's
have
wrong.
stayed out of this whole thing. Yeah.
That was a perfect example, actually.
Yeah, it was. I would only add one thing to the alcohol part. This isn't drunk we're talking about.
Yeah,
This is a couple of drinks.
Yeah, drink. Yeah.
This is actually responsible adult behavior.
Right.
Like this isn't crazy town.
Yeah.
And she's incredibly responsible with alcohol. I mean, we're so paranoid about having a drink and then going anywhere near a vehicle. So that's something you have to overcome is hey, we're having a beer at a ball game. Okay. And last summer, I enjoyed a nice cold beer with my daughter, Maddie, at a Giants game. And it was the coolest thing ever. A dog and a beer? I mean, it's the most American thing in the world.
It's not a Dodger dog, though.
And absolutely not a Dodger dog.
No.
But and whatever. No, we're not going to talk about them.
Sorry,
yeah, it's all right. It's, yeah. But that's one of those things that was, and of course, there's no training course for this. You just have to try a couple of things and see how it works.
Well, and luckily we have a lot of non-member friends who've known us forever because they're the friends of our children.
Yeah, we'll never have to buy a drink in this town because everybody in town wants to take us out for a drink.
Yeah. But
I know what that's like.
yeah, I'm sure.
but anyway, so that's there you go.
Thank you for sharing. I'll also say that I've never tried marijuana. I'm not like a marijuana advocate. I've heard from many post-Mormon friends that responsible marijuana use can very much enhance the sexual experience. Again, I'm only talking from hearsay.
Not just sexual experience. Scott he got a medicinal card before it was even legal. And at night, literally on his nightstand, he has a little bit and then he goes to sleep.
So it's a good, instead of Ambien.
Yes.
Or alcohol.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Marijuana can be a really healthy sleep aid.
Yes.
That's more natural.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, if I have a drink in the evening, I sweat all night. So so sometimes you have a drink to take the edge off, to relax or whatever. But if I have a drink or two in the evening, I don't sleep. So my drinking I don't drink much. I enjoy a drink, but I don't drink very much. But I do use the vaporizer, the weed vape pen, most nights before bed. And it calms me down, and I go right to sleep. And in the morning, there's nothing, and there's no calories, which I need to eventually worry about. But it's actually been a positive thing for me. And I talked to the therapist about it and said, look, I'm taking an antidepressant now. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Like I didn't think that would be something, but I'm also doing this marijuana. Let's talk about it. So I'm asking a doctor about how to do this too. So. You don't have to do it all on your own. There's plenty of books and resources out there, but the biggest things for us has been finding good friends we can talk to and share our experiences with. The podcasts is kind of like that. And then therapy. It's been incredibly opening. And again, this is relatively new for us, but it's been very, very helpful.
Yeah. And responsible use of substances that can enhance your life, right?
Yeah.
If you're careful and thoughtful, right. And that's important.
I have a couple of bad discs in my back, so I've been prescribed opiate painkillers for a long time, and I have taken them, not taken them, taken them, and
those can be deadly.
They're incredibly addictive.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I had to take them for a while, and then stopped, and been so sick I wanted to die. Those things are a little scary. I've never had an issue like that with marijuana, ever.
Yeah.
So
I'll also add that just lack of healthy sleep has been associated with heart disease and dementia. Yeah. Sleep is super important.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say, oh well, marijuana, but if it helps you sleep, if you need it to sleep. And it can really help you, versus synthetic, whatever that you're putting in your body that a pharmaceutical company may create and a doctor may prescribe, but it may actually, who knows what it's doing to your body.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We need, for sure the church needs to update its word of wisdom to the freaking 21st century,
Or just,
I would even take 20th century, but 21st century would be better.
Or just to what it says.
Right. Which it doesn't say anything about marijuana other than enjoy the herbs of the field, right? And again, I've never tried it, so it's not like I'm some advocate of it. But we need to have better common sense about health in this country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that stuff.
Yeah. One other thing, when Maddie came out, and we went to talk to our families, and then when she did the movie, and she put a trailer out and did a Kickstarter. All 4 of her grandparents put money into the Kickstarter. Her Orthodox and her unorthodox grandparents sent money in. When I told my parents that she was gay, and she's their favorite, so I could say that in front of the other kids. They had 21 grandchildren. She was the first, and they spent a lot of time around her. She's the favorite.
Sorry,
Come on,
guys.
you guys know.
Sorry, guys.
So when I went to tell my mom and dad that she was gay, they said at 72, 73, but this is Maddie. We love her. Like, so, and one of them even said, well, maybe the church has this one wrong. And I think the power of it was they know this person. And I think that's what's happening now in the church is my folks and other people in our community know Maddie and the quality person she is. Coming out as gay is, they're okay with it. And I think the youth, their age, they're doing that too. It's not even an issue for their generation. So things are changing in our society and in the church, whether they like it or not.
So I have a couple kind of topics I want to cover, and then I think we've covered a lot. You guys, if you want to think about some final things you want to share, but I want to go through, and this is with the kids too, I want to go through sort of a series of topics really quickly, micro topics, okay? The church provides, okay, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, spirituality, morality, support for family, community, friends, and did I already say identity, morality? And then it also provides answers about death and the afterlife. That's really valuable stuff and opportunities to serve. Amazing things, right? I still can't fully sleep at night thinking about my, and of course you talk to post-Mormons, generally they're going to say, life is amazing. Oh, it's great. I drink, I do marijuana, sex is better, marriage is better, child rearing is better, whatever, everything's better, right? But that's not the full story. There's a lot of loneliness out there. There's a lot of, and it depends, different for different people. Sometimes it's a matter of privilege. If you're wealthy, if you've got all the friends in the world, if you're secure in your job, if you're mentally healthy, physically healthy, yeah, maybe it's just all upside to leave the church. But I counsel and coach with a lot of people. So does Margie, so does Natasha, so does a lot of post-Mormon therapists and coaches. There are a lot of people who are lonely. There are a lot of people who don't know their morality and lose their moral bearings, not out of judgment of me, but just their life careens out of control because they make really stupid or unhealthy or unwise decisions. Sometimes their marriages unravel when they shouldn't have. Sometimes marriages end and it's good. Other times marriages end and it's not good because they could have had a good family and they could have kept the family together. Sometimes they neglect their kids. Sometimes they're lonely. They don't have community. Sometimes they lose their friends and they can't find good friends. Sometimes they're petrified about death and they don't know, like now they used to not think about death. Now they're having panic attacks over dying and the fear of themselves or loved ones dying. And they don't know about the afterlife, right? So, and sometimes people mostly just lack a sense of meaning and purpose. And they just feel like all I do is binge watch Netflix or Game of Thrones, or all I do is like goof off, or I'm sad, or I'm bored, or I'm lonely, or I don't know what the purpose of life is. And then they start self-medicating. So it can be anything from awesome to leave the church to some people catastrophic to the point of it would have been better if they had stayed. And so I want to just ask all of you for I'm going to go through like 8 little topics, and I want you to say anything from, yep, we've nailed this one, we've got it figured out, it's not a problem leaving the church, here's how we're owning it and nailing it, to pluses and minuses, to we haven't got this one figured out and we're still struggling with this one, or it's a big hole. And I just want to, and this will just let other people know tips and tricks or needs based on your experiences so far. Because by the way, kids, you guys said how much you enjoyed and loved and valued being Mormon for a time, right? Yeah. And of course, Scott and Joanna, you guys were like in it to win it, thriving, just like doing it full force and believing in it and loving it. So you must have, and you wept several times, Scott, at things that moved you, whether it's things with your dad or things with your son or the priesthood or general conference. And, you know, there are a lot of things that meant a lot to you, being a bishop and sharing that with your dad. And so I just want to go through kind of 8 topics. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, so let's start, and I want everyone to kind of jump in. So let's start with morality. How have you guys pieced together a sense of morality? Why aren't you all meth addicts? Why aren't you all prostitutes? Why aren't you all cheating on your spouse or, you know, acting crazy? Have you lying to everybody, stealing from everyone? How have you pieced together a morality without the church? And we'll go to Jake first.
Yeah. So I think we touched on this a little bit. How in our family, honesty and integrity has always been very important, and especially in my dad's side, you know. So I just feel like we always had like a really good sense of morality outside of the church, luckily for us. And it was always just most important being honest and being kind and, you know, being loving. I don't think we ever had a problem with that.
So you're just saying that was always solid, and
that was always
keeping
solid.
It.
I think,
but you don't want to throw that away now that there may or may not be a God, there may or may not be an afterlife. You're not feeling like that needs to change.
Yeah, we were always just taught to try and be the best person you can be, and that hasn't changed because I wouldn't. Like, we didn't leave, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a bad person now. So I think we all have the same values still.
Yeah, I think something like that I've learned since leaving the church, in sense of like doing what is right and what is the right thing to do, sometimes just comes down to sticking to your gut and trusting your gut and trusting that you, like, if you have committed to doing something doing good, like be good, do good, and hope for good. Trust your gut, and if something you're coming up with a decision and you have an idea of what to do with that decision, if it's hard or not, like, you know, sticking to your gut, like, and trust that you are trying to do what's right and what's good.
Yeah. One way to say this is Mormons don't have a monopoly on goodness, and another way to say it is keep the good. Mm-hmm. If you were moral and ethical before, why throw that away? Just keep it. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Scott?
I would say just that. I think we didn't struggle with that part of it leaving. If anything, I was just surprised at how that part stayed the same. And that's it.
Yeah.
Well, just like you're saying, Mormons don't have the monopoly on that. All of our kids' friends and their parents and your friends growing up and their parents and my friends growing up, like, people are generally good. So sometimes, you know, there's good and bad in every slice of society. So I don't feel like that changed at all.
Okay. The next one is spirituality. And that can be, for some, a belief in a higher power or God, and for some it's just connection to something higher, to nature, to, you know, flow, whatever it is. How do you guys feel? How's your spiritual barometer? Do you even care about spirituality now? And if so, what does that look like? Let's start with the kids.
Sure. I kind of lost a sense of my spirituality. I no longer really believe in a God. Definitely not in the Mormon theology kind of thing. But I'm kind of also in a place where I'm so focused on my film that I kind of want to get out of, once I finish the film and move out of Utah, maybe I'll explore different things. And what I feel, I do generally, one of my biggest beliefs is that I believe people are good, and people can go bad. But I love that. I love the idea that there is goodness in the world. So I don't know, that's kind of a cheesy Disney way of thinking about it. But it's hopeful.
So a lot of people are like, well, leave the church, but it would just kill me if you stop believing in God or Jesus, right? That's a very common Mormon response. So, like, what if people are crying crocodile tears that you're not sure you believe in God anymore? What would you say? Oh my gosh, that makes you potentially an atheist. You know, how would you respond in a way that would maybe help people not feel so concerned about you, or just how do you feel okay about that?
Well, I think it came back to, the first thing that came into question for me when I was coming out with my sexuality was my relationship to God. That was the first thing that was shaken. I didn't really have any problems with polygamy, and I feel guilty about that now. I was like, oh, that's the past. It's fine. Racism, it's whatever. Right, like that's what I feel guilty about. But that was the first thing that was called into question for me was why would God do this? And I also, I hate talking with so much negativity about being gay. I'm stoked about it now. But at the time, it was like, why would, and like a God that I thought was essentially Santa Claus, like why would he condemn me to this miserable life of sin and, being alone kind of a thing. And once I kept praying, kind of thing, and eventually kind of gave God an ultimatum. And I was praying and I was starving and I was hurt and broken. And I said, God, like, if you're there, please just send me something. Like, I just want to feel something. And I just didn't feel anything. And I don't know if that was just the time. Maybe I was just numb to any kind of feeling. Maybe it was just a combination of a bunch of things. But that kind of just ended. And since then, I haven't really felt good moments. And I've had moments in my past of feeling the spiritual, feeling the spirit and good, big spiritual moments. So it really could be, and I also hate to use the get out of jail free card and being like, for everybody out there who like is questioning their faith, it might not always be that way. But maybe it really is for me at this point, just where I am right now we just left this Mormon religion, which is a very all or nothing religion, I think. And now that I'm out of it and I'm doing this, kind of advocacy documentary, which is involved in that religion, maybe it just, when I leave, maybe then I'll kind of question what I believe and what I don't believe, if that helps somebody.
Sophie, how about you?
I don't know what I believe. I think that there's something else. I think there has to be something bigger. But I was talking to my friend about it once because I was really sad I was sad that I lost the security of feeling like there was like actually God and that there and a plan and I could talk to him and he loved me. But I want to believe it, but I just don't. And my friend told me that, at least for her, praying is similar to just a form of expression and figuring out your thoughts and just kind of making it easier to get along with what you're dealing with. So I've done a lot of like journal writing, or I like going to the beach and just watching the ocean and just thinking and figuring out what's going on. And that makes me feel centered and have the same spiritual feeling that I had praying before we left. So I don't know what that means, but I just think everybody needs to figure out what's going on inside them, and then you can find peace. And I find peace in not feeling like I need to have a God.
Beautiful.
It was very well.
Love it. Jake.
Very, very eloquently said. I do not believe in a God or anything like that exactly at the moment. I know that's kind of just like a very bold statement, but I think for people in the church who would say, like, I'm worried about you, like, do you believe in God or whatnot? My response would probably be, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Like, if you were raised in a religion that teaches all these things and is just built on all these principles that are just straight wrong, why would I even want to explore anything in that area? Not to mention the fact that I feel like I've never had the most significant spiritual moments. And I also think that for myself, when Maddie's talking about like follow your gut, I think some people say follow the Holy Spirit. I think you could say it's the whole same thing, but for me it's just my gut, what my gut tells me. And I think leaving the church has made me more independent by far, and I feel like I've become my own person leaving the church, and I'm not just another soldier another missionary. But like I got really excited when we left the church because I felt I can write my own book, and I wasn't just living out some Book of Mormon story.
That's powerful. Are you sad you didn't go on a mission? Do you wish you'd gone?
The parts that I'm sad I missed out on, I know that I can find elsewhere. So that is why I'm not sad about it. And that's why my dad wishes that, we had the same experiences. But the world is so big and there's so many just different things out there. Like, it's kind of silly of us to sit here and just, always think about Mormonism. It's so much different for me. I spent like 16 years in the church. But, for me, I just got excited for what's out there and what I can actually find. So, yeah.
It's hard for me to hear my kids talk like this.
Yeah. Did you know all that?
Some.
Uh-huh.
I'm incredibly proud listening to them because they're so thoughtful. But when I hear one of my children say, "I don't believe in a God," it startles me a little bit. I have to be honest about that. I personally believe in God. I don't have any definition for that anymore. I don't know what that means, and I have found some freedom in that because there were things that didn't work out for me in the church. Not the church history stuff, but like why wasn't this prayer answered, or why couldn't I bless my wife to be healed from this crippling depression? Those things are hard to figure out. But I had some really, really powerful spiritual experiences that I'm trying to figure out now. And when I think about the day that I went to the temple to pray about my wife, that I can still picture it in my mind. And nobody else put it there. Maybe my brain did it. Maybe God did it, whatever. But there's something there that connects us. And I feel very, very powerfully that my wife and I are connected on a level that's really precious and deeply spiritual. And I don't think that's because we were Mormon. I think that's because, I guess what I think is that God speaks to his children in the language they understand. For me, it was being a Mormon and the preexistence and a patriarchal blessing and that kind of stuff. But it helps me to understand how the Hindu or the Muslim or the Baptist in Texas has a spiritual experience, because I don't understand how there could be all these different gods. And so I've always respected these other people and their faith, and they're every bit as sincere as we've always been, and they have spiritual experiences, and there's something there. And so I believe personally that there is a God, there's something there. I just don't really care about defining it right now. I just don't care about the security. I just don't. And that has been a big deal for me. That's a big move for me to get to that point.
And you're choosing not to disbelieve or fully deconstruct the spiritual experiences you have had that are meaningful to you.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of deconstruction on it. I have not gone deep into the Jesus and his life and reality and the atonement and resurrection, all that stuff. And but I just don't feel like it right now. I don't feel a need to do that right now. I did. I don't. Maybe I will. Mm-hmm. But I have. When we left, the other prayer that I had that was answered was whether or not we should leave the church. And I had a very, very powerful spiritual experience that put my heart at ease on our way out the door. And I believe that still, that whether it's Heavenly Father or it's the universe responding to my soul, it was the right thing. And I'm just going to go with that for now.
Beautiful.
You guys all gave such beautiful definitions. I'm just going to be kind of quick.
You can pass, yeah, or be quick, whatever you want. Whatever you want.
I still want to talk. I have the microphone in my hand. I believe in good and evil. Definitely. I believe in God. It's not defined the way that it was in the Mormon Church. with God the Father and His Son Jesus Christ. Like the I'm not quite sure again how that is, but I do believe in higher power, and I still think of myself as Christian. I love Christian holidays, the pagan things that we do, and I love the idea of a savior and an atonement, and so I still would say that I'm Christian. But again, it's not the way that it was in Mormon-esque way.
Nice. Okay. You guys do, this is great. Thank you. Next questions. What is the purpose of life? What is it? What's
go
the
ahead and
number?
define
Is
that
there a
for
number
us.
in the?
Do you know?
Isn't it like 47? What is the number in Zen and the motorcycle whatever maintenance? What is the purpose of life if it's not to come here and get a body and be tested and to, get your celestial glory in the afterlife?
Can I just respond?
You're going to go first? Yeah. What's the purpose of life? And then, okay. What's the purpose of life and how do you find meaning now that you don't have the church?
Still working on the second part of that, having meaning.
What do you mean? Sometimes you feel like life is meaningless? Because there's suffering. So why?
Yeah.
Why bother?
Sometimes the first part of the question was, what's the purpose of life? And for me, right now, I feel like our family motto is be honest, be kind, and don't be an asshole. Like just,
Is that enough?
Simple as that.
For now.
For now. And like I said, be kind to others. Just don't be a jerk and just...
But that sounds like a moral code, not a sense of meaning and purpose.
Purpose of life. Well, that's why I said the meaning for me in life now, I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Like...
is that good or bad? Do you feel lost or are you excited about the journey of figuring it out?
Right now I feel lost.
Okay.
Like, especially also my time in life, I don't have a career.
Yeah.
I haven't worked for 6 years.
Yeah.
And my youngest has a year left at home.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of loss in my life and then trying to figure out my own identity.
Yeah. You're
and
grieving.
Yes. And figure out what I want to do. Something with youth. Because just, whether it's junior high level, probably. So.
Okay. Thanks for being honest. Scott? What's the
I
purpose of life and how do you find meaning?
I don't know what the purpose of life is.
Are you okay with that?
Well, it's not about being okay. So I'm trying to call on a little bit of my thoughts and advice from a kind therapist. But in the last 4 years, we've lost our faith. Our whole identity as Mormons, her dad and my mom and my dad. And the last 12...
So you've lost both your parents in the last 12 months, right?
Yeah, my mom and dad both died in the last 12, 13 months. And so I'm doing the things I need to do to just figure out my stuff right now. And I'm parking a lot of these questions for now because my wife and I are in some ways kind of broken. And in some ways I'm totally lost. In some ways I'm totally at peace. I don't feel the pressure anymore to try to be perfect or to live up to somebody else's standards. And that's been an enormous lift. I know I don't know if that's purpose, but I guess I'm just saying, I don't know what the purpose is. There's enough good and bad in the world to make us all crazy. And I can't deal with that right now.
So if somebody says, "We'll see," you left the church. Like you feel broken, you left the church. Of course you feel broken.
Yeah.
Go back to church, you won't feel broken, and you'll know what your meaning and purpose is, and you won't feel lost.
And at the risk of sounding too harsh, the church is what broke me. So I'm not going back to that. Ever.
Powerful. All right, Jake, we're snaking.
All righty. Purpose of life. I would say I kind of in the same boat. I don't know, and I don't know if there needs to be. I feel like, asking the question is saying that there is one. But I don't know.
It presupposes. You're saying it presupposes there is one.
Yeah, why does there need to be one? Why can't we all just be alive and
These kids
live.
are really smart. I don't know where they came from.
I don't know. I just feel like that's who I am. I'm super independent. I don't want people telling me what the hell to do. So
Well, here's how it goes. I'll tell you. It's like many people feel anxious. Many people feel depressed. Many people feel lonely. Many people aren't really enjoying their lives, especially in 2019. Depression, anxiety, and suicide rates are as high as they've ever been in the history of the Western world. Yeah. So they're like, if life doesn't have meaning and purpose, I'm done. I'm out. That's. And I don't mean to put all that on a 17-year-old or 16? How old are you? 17, 19, 19-year-old. I don't mean to put all that on you, but
19.
I guess I just threw that on you. So what's your response to that?
Man, I mean, obviously, I'm very fortunate.
Right.
And I happen to live in a place where I don't have to worry about, am I going to be hungry tonight, or are my parents going to beat me? Like, I have a great family. I've been so fortunate. So for me, I haven't had to really answer those questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, that's a really tough one to swallow. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have it really tough, and yeah, if you didn't have this immediate purpose and, A through Z, this is why you're here and this is what to do, I can see why, people would get really depressed by that. But I don't really have an answer.
For me, the way out of that is some people need religion. Like, let's not be jerks and say, burn it all the F down. Let's spoil it for everyone. Anyone who's a believer is dumb. How about some people need it, some people want it. Let's be respectful to them. But then I think what you're saying is you don't have to have it.
Yeah.
That for some people, they don't need it or want it.
Absolutely.
And they can be okay.
Yeah. Again, independent. So I'm like, you do you, I'll do me. So if for people religion works, I don't care. That's your problem. But do you still have like goals and ambitions in life? Do you still have dreams? Yes.
Or are you just going to be on video games all day long?
Just because I don't think there's... Okay. So...
Did I touch on a sensitive thing? No. I mean... No. Actually, what I'm saying is, like, are you still excited about life? Do you still have goals and dreams and plans?
So I'll tell a quick story, actually, in like 60 seconds. So when we were driving up to go to school at Boise to drop me off,
State.
My parents drove up with me, and we were just talking because this was, I forget what we were talking about.
We were listening to a Mormon Stories podcast.
Which one?
I don't know, but he had but when we turned it on, he goes, "Oh, this? All right, good night." And he went to sleep for about 4 hours.
And he woke up and he's like, "Is this still on?"
Yeah, I think I said something like, "Are you guys seriously still talking about this?" Because I'm young and over it already. But
it took like 12 minutes.
Yeah,
basically. So we're in the car. I think people resigning and stuff came up, and we're talking about resignations and
Escobars.
No, this is a year ago, August, when we took him out to Boise for his freshman year.
Yeah, it's like Quit Mormon was getting big.
Okay.
And I think we're talking about that. And I can't remember what they were talking about, but they were just talking about how big a deal it is, like, putting your name in to, be off the records. And I just thought it was silly. So I was like, I went on my phone while we were in the car, and I looked up Quit Mormon, and I put in my information and send. And I was like, hey guys, look how stupid it is. I just did it right now. And my parents were both shocked.
I about died. I'm driving. We're somewhere between Winnemucca and Boise, in that little slice of Oregon you drive up through. And he shows me the confirmation of his resignation on his iPhone. And my heart, so talk about physical.
And your dad's still alive at this point.
I started sweating. Yeah. My heart started racing. Goosebumps. I was freaking out. And we were going to do this. We're going to talk about this. We were going to have a family meeting. Damn it. We have family meetings in this family. And he was like, whatever. If you guys are going to do it, just do it. And I just blew us away. Yeah.
Did you want to finish the story?
I mean, that's pretty much it right there. Like, it just goes to show, the difference, and like maybe me and Sophie would have a way easier time just putting in our name online to be removed than our parents who have been in it their whole life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Wise stuff. How can kids be so freaking wise?
I don't know.
They figured this out like 3 decades before we did.
That's what I'm saying. They come the way they come.
All right, Sophie.
Purpose?
Purpose and meaning.
Of life.
Yeah. For you, or not.
I'd like to sing a little song.
You can say
I'd like to
popsicles.
start off with a poem I wrote. No. I have no idea. And I've had a really hard time with that. And I've been so lost. And I've dealt with anxiety and depression since we left. Because for me, it was that loss of purpose. And the step by step, here's what you do. You go to BYU, and then you marry an RM. And then you're going to be the young women's president, just like mom. And then you'll
And you know how to do all that.
Yeah.
Because you've seen it.
Exactly. I've seen it,
You've lived it.
I know what to do, and it's easy, and everything's planned out, and then that's taken away, and I don't know what purpose is. I don't know what the meaning is, and I'm still trying to find that, but through therapy, again, therapy's awesome. It's just, for me, it's just finding ways to be happy, and that's what's most important, because every decision you make, I feel like it should be about making yourself and others happy. So that's, I guess,
What's making you happy? What are 3 things that you've found that make you happy?
my family, music, and student government. I'm super involved at my school, putting dances and homecoming and all that stuff.
Fun. And so you just like search for joy.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Hey, men are that they might have joy.
And women.
And women.
Yeah, come on, dude.
It was like the royal we kind of thing.
Beautiful, Sophie. Beautiful. All right, Maddie.
I know. I'm like, I just love these people. They just have wonderful things to say. No, you. But I really, when Jake said that about does there have to be a purpose in life, and that really struck with me too. And then he said finding joy, finding ways to be happy. And I think for me, it's a combination of both of those two things. I think actually, conversely, leaving Mormonism kind of freed me of having this designated purpose and this designated plan. And now that I'm out of Mormonism, I can just take time. However, if it takes me the rest of my life to find true happiness, I can just spend my life finding ways to be happy and finding ways of being good, of doing good, and of hoping for good. And that is such a wonderful way of living. And there doesn't have to be this end-all be-all for me. Why was I born? Why was I on this planet? What is my purpose in life? What is anybody's purpose in life? It doesn't have to be that way. It can just be, maybe there is some lesson to learn. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just those happy moments, those moments that really do make it worth it. This is going to sound like a promo. I don't mean it to be, but one of our subjects in the film, I really admire a lot. He's now in grad school in New York, but he used to really struggle with suicide ideation, especially even as early as high school. And he used to say in one of his struggles, and I am telling his story because it struck me. He used to say that when he was struggling with suicide ideation, he was like, I know it gets better, because that's kind of a thing people say is it gets better, especially if you're gay. Like you get over it, and that's true. But for him, it was, is it worth it? And he said, now, and I picture his voice in my head. So if you're out there, JD, I love you. But he said, and I can tell you it is worth it. It gets better and it's worth it. And I think finding those moments that make life so worth it, like going to a Giants game and having a hot dog and a beer, like in those moments, happy and good, or doing service just because of service, not because it's a checklist thing to do, not because it's homework, or not, nothing like that. Just doing service and seeing them smile and say thank you makes it worth it, or beer and a hot dog. So kind of combination of finding joy. Game of Thrones? Minus
Family
what
Game
they
of
did to my
Thrones?
girl Dani. I love her. I'm kind of, anyway. It's not.
It can be.
Anyway, but anyway, finding joy and letting yourself just take the time to find happiness.
Love it. Okay, let's go back. One of the things that and some of this is just Utah, I'm sure. I've been really sad at how hard it's been for my children to find friends. And part of that's just Utah. It's the Mormons. We have a friend that once said there's two problems with Utah, the Mormons and the non-Mormons. And what's meant by that is the Mormons are, can be sometimes, and by the way, there's a lot of great Mormons in Utah and non-Mormons, but sometimes Mormons can be hard or you don't have a lot in common with them. And then sometimes in Utah, the reaction to Mormons, the more conservative, the more angry, the rebellious sort of thing. Sometimes you just want to be a human and not have to have religion frame things in a positive or a negative way. But anyway, that's our problem. But I've noticed, number one, how hard it's been for my kids to find friends without the church. And then number two, sometimes when we talk about Scott or my upbringing or Joanna's or yours early on, we're just the ward and the culture and the adults and the youth and the vibrancy and the programs. I'm like, I wish my kids had a community to be more of a part of, even though they're like, I don't want a community. But I'm like wanting it for them. So friends and community, has it been easy for you? Not easy for you.
Honestly, not. I've kind of in that same boat. It's been weird. I mean, I'm also in Utah. I came back to California. The year has been weird with funerals and everything like that too. So I've been home a lot. But I live in Utah, working on the film, and it's been hard to find friends. I mean, it's where do you go other than the ex-Mormon groups or the Mormon groups or the gay groups? And sometimes you want to just like watch a soccer game. So I mean, for me right now, I'm soccer is my new thing where it's like meeting people because Salt Lake has this awesome women's soccer team. Another promo, I'm just going to spew them out there. And that's been a lot of fun. But other than that, it's been kind of hard just finding people that are like you that also aren't, like me, that talking about Mormonism and ex-Mormonism and gay shit all the time. So,
but not enough to make you want to go back.
To Mormonism?
Yeah.
No. I no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. Okay. Sophie, friends and community. Sounds like school's going good for you.
Yeah, it made it easier for me because I know probably 3 people who are Mormon at my high school of like 1,200.
Yeah.
So it brought down a social barrier of like me being. I just thought I was better. It's so bad. But I thought I was better because I was in the right church and I had all these morals and all this stuff. But now without that blocking, I have like real friendships and being, I'm on the lacrosse team. That's really helped a lot because it's kind of forcing me to talk to people every day. And being a part of the leadership class is just getting everybody involved. And they've been lifesavers for me.
So. That's nice. I like to say you leave Mormonism, but you join the human race sometimes. Because we're all human and there's amazing people everywhere.
Right.
And jerks everywhere, but welcome to the human race, right?
Right.
All right, Jake, friends and community.
Truth be told, when I was in sophomore year in high school when we were leaving. And when I told most people that I was leaving the church, most of their reactions were, "You're Mormon?" So I guess that goes to show a little bit about some of my social reputation in high school. By the time I got to high school, I wasn't a huge Mormon by that point anyways. So for me, it was never a problem. I have lots of great friends. I've just been super lucky. We've all just been super tight. So college is great. I go to school in Boise where there's Mormons and I see missionaries, often. But, it's great. I love it. Like you said, I'm in the human race, so there's way more people I can choose from.
Okay.
Well, Jake has a big group of friends that when Jake is home, they're always here. Which is great. They're a great group of people, and again, we have a unique thing because our kids didn't have Mormon friends. So, Maddie just flew home 2 weeks ago. One of her best friends had her bridal shower. She's not a member, and she lives in Wisconsin. Anyway, Maddie came back here for the bridal shower, and so, and she has a friend in Texas, but they're not members, so it's different.
How about for you?
For me, again, I've lived here in Davis since '96. And all of my children were raised here, born here. We've known our neighbors forever, same elementary school. It's a pretty small town. There's just one high school. 60,000, but one high school makes it pretty small. And we have known really good people. Scott mentioned a friend of ours when we first left. Like I said, a lot of our friends were like, "You've got to tell us about it. What happened?" Because they're not members of the church, and all of them knew us, but they also had Mormon friends growing up wherever they lived, and so they were fascinated by our story. And we brought home my neighbor that lives a couple doors down from this party one night, and it was just an adult party, just alcohol, nothing else. Adult party sounds weird.
Nothing else.
Adult party sounds, like...
What the? Nothing else. It's an adult party.
No, I meant just like, people watching this may be like, what's an adult...
You specify. So.
Well, it was just a Christmas party. Anyway, we drove her home and she said, she's like, as close as we have been, I've always felt like there's a barrier there because she's Jewish, and she's like, I was never going to join your church, even though I'd invite her to things and talk to her. I always felt the responsibility to save everyone I ever came in contact with. So if I'm at the post office or these Baptist friends or like everybody, I was sharing the gospel at all times. So I had to save myself and my neighbors, everyone I ever met, and the dead. So I was always saving somebody. So I couldn't just enjoy the relationship. Even when they were talking to me, in my head, I'd be thinking, how can I bring the gospel into this conversation so I can bring it back so they can join the church? And it's just exhausting. And, well, no, but they could feel like there was something there, so now that that's gone, it's wonderful and great. And I regret, so I don't miss community at all. I don't miss anything with that.
Okay.
But again, we have completely different experience being in this town.
Right.
I have a few good friends that I've made since leaving the church. I've never had a need for a big giant group of dudes because frankly, we were always so busy with the church, we didn't have time for any friends. But I have 2 brothers and a sister who live in the area and my dad. And so, when we had free time to go do stuff, we kind of, we'd play golf or whatever together. Since leaving the church though, and my dad's gone and, things change. It's hard. My youngest brother and I are business partners. He's right now the Elders Quorum president in his ward. And, he is a good man. Just besides the fact that he's my brother, he's a good man, good husband, good father. And we don't talk about this stuff. That's the balance he and I have had to strike. So when we see each other every single day in the office, we don't talk about anything regarding the church. That's too bad because the church is so deeply important to you and the purpose of life and all these other things. And so he and I have lost some of that. But we are now talking and trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. So there's some work has to be done on some of those relationships. A couple of guys that I've become friends with since leaving the church who also were very, very active in the church and have left. Those guys are like there's the brothers I was born with and the brothers I chose. And think of my pal Chris, who's like a brother. Tim, all these guys.
These are post-Mormons
that
you've become buds with?
Yep. And these are guys that I feel like occasionally we save each other. And then we'll hear about a new guy who's hurting. And there's this urgency, and it feels just like the old days when somebody was interested and needed, maybe they lost a loved one and we thought we need to give them the gospel. Now I hear somebody who's maybe breaking up with their spouse because one of them's leaving the church, or they're scared to death because they just learned some new thing and the church isn't what they thought it was. And there's been 2 different times where we've dropped stuff and called them and said, meet us at wherever, and we go have dinner. And it's the same thing. We're reaching out to them to help save them in a way, and other people did that for us on the way out. There's a real need to hold each other close when you go through this process. So my friends have kind of come out of that process, and we don't do a lot together, not a ton, but these are people that instantly had a pretty deep connection. And that's been a really powerful thing for me.
Well, you still have your high school friends.
Yeah, I have a bunch of high school friends, and we get together about once a year and play golf and stuff. And they were so excited that I would drink beer with them on the golf course. But good guys, and so we get together.
Yeah, and that's one of the paradoxes of this situation is sometimes you just want to really leave the church behind, but you end up feeling like there's no one who gets you like a post-Mormon.
It's true.
And so it's just like coming home to find other post-Mormons. And everyone wants to stop talking about Mormonism, but sometimes it's so fun and interesting and quirky or angry, outrageous that you can't stop talking about it. But most importantly, we're still tribal creatures.
They get it.
Where they get it. They get you, and they've been shared experiences, bond people, and there's like no better friends, no deeper connections. I've seen you guys face to face twice, and you feel like family. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just, that's what this does. That's this crazy world we live in.
Yep.
So, okay, thank you. That was beautiful, everyone. Time to wrap up, but there's a couple more things. One is family, and I'll just throw this out to any of you, or you don't even have to answer it. It seems like your family was super solid before, and it's still super solid. I don't see, like a lot of times couples get closer or people become better parents once they leave the church because they can all of a sudden get real and be honest. But it sounds like, with the exception of Maddie feeling forced to kind of hide herself, you guys have just always been solid and strong as a family. So is there anything you want to add there? Or?
There's something really important to add there. We've always been a really close family. Thank God for that. But leaving the church and having moments, it's those quiet moments when nobody's around, when you're having a one-on-one with one of your kids or your spouse, that new things open up. The sex stuff that Joanna shared is so intimate, but the other intimate stuff about telling your spouse, I don't know what I think about God. There's an intimacy there that's deeper than what it was before. Because before it was, hey, I know Joseph's a prophet. You do too. Awesome. We're together on the same page. Now, I don't know. And she doesn't know. And we don't know. But we know we love each other deeply. And this thing is forever. Us. So let's figure these things out. And I feel like our marriage has deepened in ways I couldn't have fathomed before, because those weren't questions before. But she and I love each other in a way that's different and deeper. My children, of course, you'd kill for your children. Any parent, I think, would. But listening to my kids today and other times we've had these really heart-to-heart conversations, I feel like we have all been able to open up in different ways. There's no way Sophie could have told me that she didn't believe in God when we were in the church. I don't think she ever would have been comfortable with that.
No, not at all. Because that'd be disappointing you.
Right. And now I even said in front of you, we've talked about it before though, Sophie and I especially, about God and not being a God. And it stings when I hear her say, no. But we're talking about something that's really, really hard. And that's deeper. It's deeper and broader, deeper and better than it was before. And I didn't think we were lacking before. Yeah. But it's deeper.
Yeah, for me, in vulnerability, Brene Brown, vulnerability and emotional intimacy drive relationships deeper.
They do.
And you're saying it's as good as your family was, it's gotten better.
It has.
Yeah.
We lost an awful lot, but we've gained some really significant things.
Kids, you want to add anything, or you just want to give an amen?
Amen.
I had a thought. You mentioned that you were born with brothers and you have chosen brothers. I feel like I've been really fortunate with my family. I was born into this family, and I'm choosing this family too. And it's almost like an adult friendship with everybody. And I will continue to choose them for the rest of my life. And I'm so lucky that way.
And also on Maddie's topic, like obviously she was the one who had to be the most reserved and everything. She was, in the closet. But after leaving the church and after Maddie came out, it really felt like putting the last piece in the puzzle. Like Maddie was like finally, like we were finally all together. And because Maddie had always been a kind of a lone wolf and like the oldest kid. And so much closer to her since, and very thankful.
So you're saying siblings can get closer after leaving the church and all the falsities or barriers or walls can come down. Siblings can get closer? Is that what you're saying? I've never actually explored that.
I think so. I've found that I have a relationship with my parents, and then I also have a relationship to my siblings, and they're different relationships. And I've also kind of seen that, this last year we've lost my grandparents, who I absolutely adored, and they were my dad's parents and my mom's dad, but they still have relationships with their siblings, and so it's kind of it's a different relationship. And I think I keep saying that I really lucked out with my siblings. I'm also so proud of them. They're younger than I am, and I mean I can talk about girls with Jake now. So that's new.
You guys can bond over how hot girls are.
Sure, yeah. But we also grew up together, and that's different than just your relationship with your parents. And I think that having this growing up experience with our faith experience too has deepened those relationships as well.
Nice. Since you mentioned, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just touching on that, being the youngest, like I've always just learned from what everybody else has done, but it's been nice for me finally to be going together with them through changes. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that has really been big because I'm not little, so I actually understand, and it's like we're actually together in it. And I think that's really important in strengthening our bonds.
Yeah, usually you were the last person.
Mike.
Usually, Sophie would be the last person to go through something. I get it. She feels left out. But, no, I mean, I'm being serious. Like, being the last one, that can, be lonely, but I agree. When we all went through that together, I've never felt more close to my siblings. I feel like I got closer to my siblings. I got more close with my siblings than I got more close with my parents. If that makes sense. Like I was already super close with everyone, but what I got the most out of connection-wise, I think my siblings and we really bonded over that.
Beautiful. And I can testify, I've been a witness in their home, fly on the wall, and there's good stuff going on. Two more things that I can think of. One is service. So you guys your lives are defined by service. And a lot of people are like, I don't really have a cause. I don't have a thing to serve. You can go to the soup kitchen, but when you have the choice of like staying home and sleeping in and having omelets or playing golf, how much are you really going to go serve anyway? So some people are fine not serving, but then other people are like, I don't know. I don't really have chances to serve anymore. And I kind of miss that. Where do you guys stand on service?
I actually joined a board last year of a local nonprofit. Then my mom got sick and the year went by, and anyway, I ended up having to resign just because of all our family health stuff. So, but it was our county's crisis nursery. It's something that's kind of near to my heart. And so I hope to get back into either that or some other organization when I have more time. But the fact of the matter is it was too soon for me anyway. And I got some stuff to figure out before I dive back in. But service is, it's still important to me. I feel drawn to certain things, but I also, I need to take care of me for a little bit right now.
It's almost like decades of self-neglect and feeding the beast. Is it okay to like invest in the self and get well, build up your own reserves before you immediately turn around and start
it's like
giving what you don't have.
It's like the thing in the airplane where you put the mask on yourself first before you can help the kid.
Doing that.
And I've never done that. And right now I kind of need to do that.
Yeah.
And that might be another month and it might be 2 years. I'm just not, I'm not going to worry about it.
That's good. Yeah.
Same thing. I still have a tendency to be the first to volunteer for things. So like the PTA or the teacher luncheon or we have a big grad night event here for the seniors every year, and it's really big. And so I'm still learning how to not volunteer for things. So
Learning to say no.
Yeah.
Instead of learning to say yes.
Yeah. So I'm still involved in just a few things. So I still feel
Just a few.
So for service, I still feel like, oh, I'm still good. I still have that box checked. So I need to again uncheck the box and get the mask on myself first, get healthy, take care of myself, and then but something with youth for me, definitely I love coaching, so I guess we'll see something like that. But
like athletic coaching?
Yeah. Volleyball or
Oprah always likes to say you can't give what you don't have. And I think some of the most powerful things we can do sometimes is not give and not say yes, learn to say no. And when you're saying no to other people, you're saying yes to yourself. And if you've been physically or mentally unwell, or you just have growth to do, some may point the fingers and say it's selfish, but what good are you to the world if you're depleted and sick and sad and lonely and unwell and self-medicating?
Yeah.
You're not good to anybody.
Well, and like Scott said, we've got thousands of hours banked up already there. So
your treasures in heaven are stored up. Is that
so we can, it's okay to just say I'm going to take like you said, 6 months, 2 years. I don't know, but because we do love doing community stuff. So
how about you guys? Are you just leading selfish, hedonistic lives or service or what?
Pretty much. So, being in college is a bit interesting for service. I mean, obviously, anywhere you are, you can find opportunities to serve. I guess that's one of my current regrets is that, not maybe giving back as much as I should. But I don't know. I'd like to more in the future. But I think being 19 years old, I would otherwise be on a mission right now. So that's pretty odd. But I don't know. I'd like to give back, but I don't think now is the time for me to necessarily focus on that. So
that's fine. That's good. Sophie?
Yeah, I don't really think about it that much. But again, going back to our student government. Yeah, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
So basically our goal is just to involve everybody in school and make them happy too. So I don't really think about it as service.
No, but you have to keep track of your service hours.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of conditioned to think that if you're not giving to a church or religion, like it doesn't count. But what's wrong with giving to your community or a nonprofit or your school? Yeah. Like that's where you are, right? Yeah. I mean, you serve the church, and then they have $201 billion instead of $200 billion. Like, yeah, great. What's wrong with just making a small, meaningful difference locally where you are, right?
Yeah.
I think that battery had already been used. Maddie.
Service I also love, but I'm also kind of at a point where I'm still making that film, and that's it feels very selfish. It's very, it's my career that I want to do and everything too.
But wait, what's the purpose of the film?
To do some good.
Yeah, right.
Other people.
Purely to launch my career, actually.
Speaking of thousands of hours, like literally thousands of hours.
Thousands of hours, and I really do hope it'll do some good. But I think in terms of service, what I'm trying to learn is a balance, obviously a balance, and learning, because service, I think goes back to that whole purpose of life kind of thing, where I find joy in serving people, but it can get to a point where it's servitude. Where it's an expectation, or where it's a job, or where it's
damaging your health,
or where it's self-sacrificing, and that's the point at which there's no longer a balance. But on the other hand, the good part of service is it's enriching and fulfilling and humbling, and you learn lessons and everything like that too. So I'm kind of learning how to balance that, I think, right now.
For me, the biggest joy is finding a career where I'm making the world a better place. Like, why not marry the two? And with Mormonism, again, sometimes it feels like you're just always feeding the beast. They're not, and it's weird because in other churches it's different. But in Mormonism, you're not all going down to the soup kitchen. You're not all going down to the local homeless shelter. You're not all going down. What you're often doing is like working at the cannery to feed Mormons. You're mowing the lawn of an old lady who's a Mormon, right? You're perpetuating the strength and the building up of the church, which isn't bad, but it's also kind of awesome, whether it's with tithing, or service. What if you give to fix cleft palates? What if you give to a rape shelter to support battered women and children? Like, the money and the service that you can give, you can give locally in a way that you can see the tangible, meaningful difference. Or even just giving money to a family member, where before you would have given to the church, and sorry you've lost your car, sorry you've lost your job, I got to give my money to the church. You can actually help out a friend or a family member and tithe in a way that like directly helps someone in a very tangible, meaningful way, instead of helping the church get to 201 billion over, instead of 200, right? So, I mean, that's my little soapbox. But for me, giving intentionally, like, we still obey the law of tithing, but it's kind of like my whole life now is just service. And by the way, I'm making a living off of serving others. How cool is that? Like, I love that.
But you can do that?
I'm able to do it. Not everyone can, but people can find ways to give. Okay.
Only the best.
What? What's that?
Only the best can really, succeed on that.
No. Okay. Quick one last thing. Death. Like, the purpose of religion, right? The purpose of religion. Yeah, it is the final thing. Death is the final thing. Is it? Or is it?
That's the question.
No, but some say all philosophy, all religion comes down to like death. We all die. Is that it? Is there an afterlife? And this is very close to you guys, as you've lost so many people so recently. Death. How do you guys, religion answers that question. How are you guys dealing with it? Children, do you want to go? We're snaking it. Children, do you want to go first? How do you might die. You probably will die, and your loved ones have died. And is there not an afterlife? How are you guys dealing with that?
I have no clue. I also don't know what I hope for. I don't know if I want there to be a life afterwards, or if I.
How can you not want a life afterwards?
I don't know. Like, what kind of a life is it? I mean, like, is it?
Does it matter? Some people just want to live even if they're bored. Like,
totally. I mean, if it's just another Earth, or if it's another existence, maybe I'd like that. But if it's like folding laundry for eternity, like, no, thank you. Like,
what if it's spawning children for your?
Well, exactly, and that's what I don't really want.
Billions of offspring.
No thanks. I get like, I'd want a nap or something. But that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really know, and I don't know if there's any way to know other than, and then I just kind of am hoping, that it's good, that it's a good thing.
If it's there,
that it's good, and it's not laundry, and it's something much more. Maybe it's more service. Maybe that would be fine.
Yeah, but like, are you okay not knowing?
It makes me scared sometimes, because it is an inevitable thing, but it's not also really a question I have to answer right now. I have the benefit of time. I have.
You think?
I think I have a lot of family members with cancer, so I'm also doomed. But that's a twisted joke. I'm sorry. But I do have time, and it's not also my responsibility to answer that question for myself or for anybody else. So I kind of take solace in that. If I ever, kind of get in a panicky anxiety in the shower kind of thing, like, what happens when you die? I just have to remind, there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can, and I just have to hope that, that it's good.
Right. To have faith.
Have courage and be kind.
I have no idea. I don't think I care at the moment. So that's it.
Power to you. Yeah. Death. That's heavy. But I think my perspective is no one knows. So, and we never will. Well, at least the living won't. So, my thought is let's just make the best of our lives while we can. So yeah, I don't really spend too much time thinking about it. But yeah, I just say we're here on earth. We know we're here, and we know we're gonna die someday. So might as well make the best out of it.
Some people, maybe you've heard of. Wait, is it Occam's razor? No, it's not Occam's razor. What's the other one? The thing about like you win either way if you believe. You guys know what I'm talking about.
The gambling.
Oh my gosh!
Pascal's wager.
Pascal's wager, right? It's like some people have kind of used Pascal's logic to say if God doesn't live and if religion's all bunk, but you followed it, at least you lived a good life. And if it all happens to be true, then bonus. But you win either way. So that's Pascal's wager. Mm-hmm. So how about I'm going to throw that back to you, Jake. Why not believe just because it's a good way to live, and then if after you die you find out it's true, well, that's a bonus.
Well, I'm a gambling man,
So you're.
But no, I really think my case for it, if there is a heaven, if there's a God, then I think when I get there, I think I'll be okay. I think based on just our family morals, like we talked about earlier, we've always had a strong sense of, like I said, being kind, being honest, being truthful. And I think if you just do that, I think that should be good enough by the eyes of any God.
But there's Christians who will say, God's got certain rules for who goes to heaven and who doesn't, or Mormons who go to the celestial kingdom and who don't. These leaders have talked to God. They know how heaven's structured. And if you don't do the right things, you're not going there. So it's not show up and God's like, oh, you're a good guy. Okay, I'll let you in. It's like you had the truth, or you knew that there were other options and you chose not to believe. How do you deal with that idea that other people claim that they know God's plan and you're not obeying it?
That's usually where I say, screw you. Don't tell me what to do. But then again, that's me. That's just who I am.
Like, what about that idea that God's told other people what heaven's
says
like?
Who?
Them, the other people.
Not says me. So then again, it's just, I don't believe people in general should tell people what to do, and that's just my personal compass, whether it's government or it's church. I think everyone should be able to interpret what their meaning is or what not to themselves, and if you think you can tell someone else otherwise, that's BS.
Yeah. Because I spent so much time praying and trying to find out what's true and not getting answers, I just decided that I'm not going to stand for God talking to anyone else but me. If God wants to talk to me, I'm here. I'm waiting. Come talk to me. But I'm not. No one else gets to claim that they talk to God and they know what God wants for me.
Yeah.
Like, God, I'm here. If you want to talk to me, come talk to me. Otherwise, I'm not going to buy into anyone else. Mm-hmm. That's how I answer that question.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. If there is a God and it's clearly that important, like the rest of eternity, I think He will manifest it to me. So that's
or else he's kind of a jerk, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, it's a broken game. So whatever.
I love it. All right, Death.
I kind of had this conversation a bit with my mom. Since my dad died, and she was alone for 2 years, and then she's gone on a mission now. But the last time she was here, she she's asking, she's like, now, do you believe in God, and do you believe in Christ? You know, those kind of things. And she's like, what about, you know, having all of the right ordinances and for when you die? I mean, basically the same kind of things. Like, she's afraid we're not going to all be in the same place. And I said, Mom, Dad will come and tell me. I know Dad. If I'm wrong, he'll come and tell me. And she had no response to that. So
Drop the mic.
Boom. I have hope in the resurrection. I do. Like I said, I'm still Christian. I still believe in the...
Because if you don't, your family's not going to be together. Your family ends, right?
No, I just kind of feel like there's continuation of my soul, like who my soul is and who Sophie is and who Scott is. Like, I feel like the soul is separate from the body, and I feel like the soul continues.
Yeah.
I just do.
What about the family?
I don't know.
Okay. But the soul.
Well, we're all individuals.
Yeah. Right.
Originally, and we will be eventually. Like, we hang out who we want to be with. So whether or not we're tied together, like, if I love him, I'll be with him because I want to, not because I had some
agreement, legal contract.
Well, or like some stamp of approval on it.
Right.
This is hard because you just...
Scott, you're getting emotional. What's going on, man?
Well, yeah.
You just lost your dad, and before that you lost your mom, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is pretty raw for me. I've cried all day today. I'm so sorry. I really hate getting emotional like this because it does trigger a few things, not with the church, but there's a heaven that I have in my mind, and it's just what I hope for. But I don't know how much I can say without just crying.
That's okay. Crying's good.
It's not. You're not the one crying. I like to think of my dad on this ranch down in San Benito County at sunset with a full canteen and his spotting scope, just watching the deer come down. With my mom. That's my picture of heaven right now. I know that's not like philosophy. It's just too soon. And if I'm not there with her, it's not going to be heaven. So I do believe there's more. I don't have any idea what it's like. So for now, I'm just going to picture what I want it to be. That's all I got.
Well,
there you go.
What do you think? Should that be the last word? I see some wet eyes over there. You guys want to respond to your dad at all?
That's where Papa and Grandma would want to be. And then go to Pajaro Dunes and just take a walk on the beach.
Find some purple starfish.
Purple starfish with store stickers on them for us to find.
Straight from the ocean.
Give that mic to Jake. What are you feeling?
You're just picking on me because I'm crying. That's unfair. Just, my grandparents, I love them. And the fact that because, we left this safety net means that there's a good chance I might never see them again. That's horrifying. But, that's the reality that we live in. So, you just have to make the most of what you got and love who you're around when you're with them.
I think a hard thing...
That's profound. Yeah.
I think... I just lost track of what I was saying. You make me sad.
I was like, no. I don't have nothing to say.
it like I want to believe that I will see them again, but wanting isn't the same as believing, which is hard. But sometimes I do feel them around me. I've had dreams that felt so real, with both of them, just comforting. And I don't know if that means heaven, but they're not. I don't think they're in pain, and I think that's the best thing I can say about death. Is I don't think you'll be in pain.
Well, I'm going on the record. I love this family. I love the Purves family. You guys are freaking awesome.
So sorry Lily's not here.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Somebody say it to John on the mic.
Thank you for everything.
Thanks,
On
bud.
behalf of the Purveses, we all thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you guys. You are gonna. This is gonna reach people, and it's gonna help people. And we've done something that's never been done before in all of Mormonism, which is pretty much an entire family, sans one, all together telling their story. And thank you, because this is how people feel like they're not alone. This is how people feel like they're not crazy. This is how people get inspired. This is how people feel validated. This is how people learn tips and tricks. And this is how people get the courage and the strength, not necessarily to leave the church or lose their belief, but just to live authentic lives. And I think that's what life's all about, is the rebirth. Christ said, being born again. I think you've all been born again. And birth is messy, and it's painful, and it's bloody, but it's this new burst of life. And you're all alive. I can tell you're all alive. You're not dead in your eyes, you're alive. And you're on this journey that's scary and hard and messy, but it's also beautiful and powerful. And it's, most of all, it's real. Yeah. And the Purves family is real. You're real.
Real weepy. Thank you, John, for everything you've done. I hear this sometimes, but I truly want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You've blessed our lives, and so many others who are just trying to not feel alone and not feel crazy. Yeah. I spend a decent amount of time ranting on the ex-Mormon Reddit, but I.
Do you want to reveal your handle or not?
I think if people listened long enough to where I served in the church and what county we're from, they'll figure that out. But anyway, but thank you. There's so many people out there that need to hear other normal people who don't have everything all figured out talk about this stuff. Right. And so we represent the people that are still messed up and trying to figure it out. And we're safe right there for now, Go Giants. Yeah. And last of all,
go Giants.
All right. I love you guys. Thank you. Thanks to the Purves family. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Joanna. Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, Sophie. Thanks, Jake. And thanks, Lily. In absentia. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for pretty much almost 8 hours. We did it. It's like 7 hours and 45 minutes or more. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support. Donors, we couldn't do without you. OSF board, we couldn't do without you. Cody Layton, we couldn't do without you. And if you value this stuff, it won't continue without support. We lose donors all the time. Every week we lose donors. So we need people to support us. So if you value this content, if you want to see this stuff continue to bless other people's lives, become a donor. MormonStories.org, 10, 15, 20, 50, $100 a month, whatever you can afford. It's all tax deductible in the U.S., and it's how we keep the lights on. And we'll do this for as long as there's support. And when the support dries up, I'm going to go take a long vacation. Because do you know what it's like to sit for 8 hours in a day and listen to people tell
No
the
air
same
conditioning.
story that you've heard
Yes, they do, John.
1,000 times or 20,000 times.
And then we're all sobbing,
and they're
it's,
sobbing.
It's a mess.
It's taxing. You guys are making me want to drink a beer. Like I kind of want to drink a beer.
Yeah, we can help.
All
you.
right.
Some weed.
We
or
can help you.
something.
What happens in Davis stays in
You're in
Davis.
California.
Come on
I
over,
mean,
Margie.
I'm not gonna yet because if Margie's not approving it, I'm not
That's
doing
what I'm saying.
it.
She's got to come.
Hey, we've never met Margie, but we love Margie just because
awesome.
of listening to her on the podcast. You married up, my friend.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, so did you. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for the support. Stay in touch. Email us if you've got an awesome family. We want to interview you too, because my listeners never get tired of these awesome family interviews. So this family is every bit the caliber of the top-notch family. So I'm so glad we did it. Do you want to plug your thing one more time?
Yikes. All right, sure. I'm doing a documentary film on gay BYU students. It's called Same Sex Attracted, in quotations, for the tongue-in-cheekness. You can find info about it on ssamovie.com. And actually right now, through the month of June, Pride Month, any donation to us, to our film, we're going to kick back 10% of it to the folks at USGA, the off-campus BYU group of gay kids who are not officially BYU. It's not official BYU club. They're just doing what they can to make ends meet, and we're going to kick back some of them. So thank you so much for any of your support. We really appreciate it.
Utah Film Center.
Support the movie. Support the movie. My butt hurts. So I'm going to get out now.
Starving.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Love you. See you again soon on Mormon Stories. Bye, everybody.